Sir.
Bob,
yes, sir.
are you well? I'm
well,
okay.
man.
Yes.
Hey, it's cold in Joburg.
Hey, no, that place is very cold. Here, it's better, much better.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know it's cold. Yeah, apparently, there's what do you call this? A cold front that came in last night.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, and it's been very, very cold, but it's better now during the day. Bad again.
Yeah, just when we thought things are getting better, we are getting into spring. But now,
hey.
This winter is persistent this year.
Yes, man. Yes. Thank you so much for joining. I've already gone live to Facebook, okay. And I think as well as YouTube, because it gives a certain period of time. And then if you don't do it at that time, then you have to start again and so on. Otherwise, good to have you, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I had to come in early to make sure that I'm saying I had to come in early to make sure that the technology, does not disappoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's always a good idea, because technology these days can be so disappointing.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. But if you've got to go and get something to drink or something like that, feel free. And then as long as you are there.
Yes.
And I can see Kukona Bandu already joining, and so there's a lot of interest in this discussion, and yeah. in fact, in you,
it's going to be it's going to be interesting indeed. I think I was thinking about it, and I said, I think it will be the first time some of the details I will go public with, where I'm more free to even talk about it now. Some things that I've maybe discussed on a one-on-one basis, maybe with people, but not necessarily in a platform that, has a lot of people that are listening into it. And get to know, who are you, and how did you get to be where you are,
So, no, I appreciate that, man. I'm really looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
No, it's gonna be right. I just gotta go and get something to drink and come back.
Okay, sure. Thanks a lot. No problem.
Okay. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Volume seems to be fine. I can see people are joining on Facebook. I can see Uli Nkabulo, Nkululo Mpala.
Okay.
Yes, people are joining in, and others I'm sure will come in as we go along. But for those people who are joining in on Facebook and on YouTube, just drop us a message when you join and say hello, so that we know that you are there, and even tell us where you are joining in from. It'd be interesting. Yeah. Who are joining in on Facebook and on YouTube, just drop us. Do you hear any echo?
No.
You don't hear any echo. Okay, I think it's an echo because I'm also watching on Facebook here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. People are joining us. See. Welcome, sir. Good to have you. All right. It's gonna be an exciting discussion. I saw Abanye asking about this description of being a former pastor. Abanye, but hey, you're still my pastor.
Yeah, I saw that.
Once a pastor, always a pastor.
I think given the years I spent in the ministry, it will be quite understandable. People,
it's understandable. I mean,
people that have known me before know me mainly in that
capacity.
Yes.
Those
that knew me after that, you know me as an attorney. That's it.
All right.
So it depends to when a person met me. Did they meet me while I was still in the ministry, or before ministry, or even after ministry? I think that then informs how they refer to me. It's always difficult for them to move from pastor to Mr. Matshiyane. It's a very hard thing.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about all of that right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Jambas. Lisa, good to hear from you. Uti, it looks like it's going to be an interesting discussion, transition from being a pastor to legal profession. Yes, it's going to be interesting. In fact, there's much more, but that is going to be an important part of the conversation. We're going to start. We're going to start any minute now, so we just make sure that those of us who have joined us already, please go and get your friends, ask family to join. It's always great to have as many people as possible to hear and be encouraged and be motivated. And feel free also to ask your own questions. All right. Just gonna do one last preparation, and then I'm back. Okay. All right. I think let's get started, Prabham. Let's get started. I'd like to just welcome you to our session today, a moment of insight and growth. This is what we are, and I'd like to welcome you and welcome all our viewers, both on Facebook and social and YouTube, who have joined us for this interesting and important session today, establishing a successful legal practice, transitioning or from theology to law. All right. So the purpose of these sessions really, just for those people who are joining for the first time, the purpose of these sessions is really to inspire one another and to inform, to educate, to encourage, and motivate people with this idea that with God on your side, there's really nothing that's impossible for you, especially if you put in the effort, you focus on your dreams, no matter what the situation is, you can make it. And we do that by really just profiling and looking at lives of people that are like you and me, people that grew up under apartheid or in South Africa or in far worse conditions, people that if we were to listen to demographers and people that project in people's lives, they probably would say, you know, if this person is like this at this age, we don't see this person making it in the future. But it so happens that people make it. And so we need to understand, how do we explain that? What happens? What do they themselves do? What kind of influences do they have that makes them to proceed even against those sort of predictions? And so that's what we do here. And today I have a pleasure really of hosting one such a man with a real extraordinary story. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary because of how it started. As I said, if you were a demographer at the time, you probably would not have said this guy would be sitting here in front of you now. As a successful attorney, you probably would have doubted that would happen. You probably would have thought that he would have ended up somewhere. But here he is today. And he overcame all that to be where he is today. I'm talking about, for some of you, his pastor, Mandla Matshiyane. For some of you, his attorney, Mandla Matshiyane. And here he is today. He's a lawyer who owns and has founded M. Matshiyane Attorneys. He's also a co-director of Nkosi and Matshiyane Attorneys, a qualified man with the BA, as well as LLB, and a postgraduate certificate in labor dispute resolution. He's an accredited mediator, as well as a former pastor and qualified ordained minister. Mandla, welcome you, sir, and thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today.
Baba, thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation to be on this platform and the opportunity you're giving me to share my story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine, and the pleasure is all ours here. I do want to make sure that our viewers, we keep tabs with what they're saying, but sometimes we miss the messages and we read later messages without tracking some of them. I can see now, Unosizwe Mkudlwa. Good to see you, Madlomo. Ujambase Lloyd is here. Nangulanga Lomphefumlo Bongani. Thank you, Brapet. We're here. Great to see Pastor Matshiyane or Mr. Matshiyane. Utinikisa umdla gqwashu. Thank you so much, Jambase. Nakumone ezinhleki sesethu Maka Ayama Manana. Welcome. Thank you so much. Tsiki Masiba. Wow. Thank you. Oh, Ntwentwe. Good to see you. Naku Miss Case and see you, Mamia. Thank you so much, Mamia. Thank you, Sisi. Kaile to church. Mtanjiswa. Good to see you. Pura Pumzilendei. Good to see you, Tlata. Kaka. Thank you so much for joining us. And and I'll keep reading and following up to see who else is joined us and drop us a message. Some of you I may miss, but I just want to make sure that everybody is aware. You can tell your friends and others how to join us. They can come onto my Facebook page, which is Patrick Kulati Facebook page, as well as YouTube channel, which is Kulati Coaching and Consulting. Go there, and you can make your comments on both those platforms. And I'd like to encourage you to submit those questions, make your comments, tell us you're there, tell us where you're from, and so on. Thank you so much, Pura, Madoda, people that are real supporters of this program, supporters of other people in general. These are agents of change that are watching these programs, and thank you so much. I always take it as a privilege to have everyone watching us on these Sundays. I know that people are taking their time off. They could be watching soccer, they could be spending time with their families, but for a few, maybe hour and a few minutes, it's good just to celebrate each other and when another one of us has something to contribute. So let's get on with it, Mr. Matshiyane. Let's start with you as a person before we talk to you as an attorney, as a pastor, and let's just talk to you as a person, and then we'll come back later on. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where it all started, where you were born, and all of those kinds of things, and just the conditions under which you grew up. We're doing this so that someone who's listening out there can identify, can locate a point of of commonality and identification with you, so that we can track from where you're coming from to where you are now and what's happening in between. Go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Look, Bob, I was born in Temba, and at the time of my birth, my parents were married and they were Adventists. We are three boys at home. I have an older brother, so I am the middle child, and my last born, and of course the last born. And I was born in Temba, but of course, in terms of growing up, as you know, as we'll go through the story, I didn't grow up in one place. I grew up in different places, but that was the place of birth. We spent a few years in Temba, and then most of my childhood, then I grew up, with my grandmother.
Where's Temba?
Temba is in Hammanskraal.
Hammanskraal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretoria.
And then, of course, yes. Most of my childhood, primary schooling was, I was staying with my grandmother and my uncles. And the high school part of it, up to varsity, I was then staying with my mother. So early around, 1990, 1991, I think my parents went through a divorce. And that is where a lot of things happened, and which led to us having to stay with my grandmother. And of course, later on, my mother was able to get us back to stay with us. If I were to explain really socioeconomic, conditions that we lived in, we grew up quite very poor, I must say. And I think we're gonna give it shape as we go through the story as to what really happened. So those were kind of the conditions that we grew up in. So my schooling was mainly in Wabaton. My grandmother stayed in Wabaton. Wabaton is somewhere on the N17 when you're going to Swaziland or Shuk.
Yes. It's a beautiful area. In fact, the whole of Malaga is very beautiful.
Yes. So I did my primary schooling there at Wabaton Combined School. And then later on, I then did my high school in Mamelodi, though I was staying in Temba. So what happened is that in my primary schooling, I did Zulu at school. So when we moved to Temba is mainly Tswana speaking, people. They didn't do Zulu. So it was advisable that I should not start doing a new African language at that time. I must continue with doing Zulu. But where I was staying, unfortunately, they were only providing, Setswana. So I had to travel then from from Temba to Mamelodi, because Mamelodi then would provide, various languages. In my school, I went to school with those that were doing Venda, Siswati, Zulu. What would happen is that during the vernacular period, we all went to the different.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
So I traveled basically every day from Temba to it was about an hour's drive going. So that's why I did my high school. My high school then was a very notorious one around Mamelodi. It was called Mandla High School, and I remember even when I was doing my matric, it was we poorly performed in that school as a whole. Talking about the percentage, I remember my school was 24%. In terms of the pass rate at that time. That was in year 2000, and I'm glad that I was one of the students, at least that got an exemption, as we would say it during that time.
Yes.
And because really I had to give it all, given the background where I was coming from, and I'm glad that I did, because later on when opportunities came, I was in a position to grab them and to qualify. To do whatever I wanted to do without any hindrances in terms of qualifications and not meeting the criteria that were there.
So basically, you from an early age, you started to focus on the importance of education in terms of being able to pull you out of that situation.
I had to. As I said, the conditions that we lived in were very difficult. And my mother was a domestic worker, and she raised us with the little that she had. And I understood as early as then that I need to make this better. She was doing her best, and she did her best to get us into school. So I really I was very focused growing up. I was very focused. I missed out on a lot of things, as they would say, but it's because I just knew where I wanted to be, and some of those things for me were distractions, and I didn't want to be distracted in achieving and making, more importantly, my mother proud. So really, I was.
But then things didn't go well after the breakup of your parents. Yes. And just tell us about some of the painful experiences, including the death of your mother, your father taking you to an orphanage, and all of that. Just tell us about that. How did that come about?
So even before my parents were divorced officially, of course, I was too young then to understand what was happening. But I do remember that we were staying together, living together as a family. And my mother was a very sickly person. She spent most of her time in my childhood in hospital. And she had a condition that kept her there for a very long time. So most of the time we were left with my father, who had to take care of us. And my father used to work for a bus company and would work on shifts, So one day, my father tells us, the three of us, that, because of the prevailing condition of my mother, and his inability to take care of us, he's going to send us to boarding school, So we're excited that we're going to boarding school. And we were told in a very short period of time, we got to prepare, and we're excited, that we are going to boarding school. In as much as we had that thing of saying, but we're leaving home, we want to see our mother, but she was not there. She was in hospital at that time. And we got to know that she was not even consulted about that decision. What was even more awkward was when the transport came to pick us up. It was a police van, right? So that was the first thing that shocked us.
The three of you, the three boys.
So a police van pulls over, and everything is packed in, and we were told this is the transport that is transporting us to where we are going for boarding school. Of course, we are kids. We can't even ask what is happening. So we get into the van.
Was your father there at the time? Was he there personally?
They put mattress. My father was there, but he was there. They put mattress at the back of the van just to make us comfortable, and the bags. And it was already late. It was already late in the afternoon. And we traveled almost, half of that night going to that boarding school. We did not know where the boarding school is.
Yeah.
So we went and we arrived, midnight, early hours of the morning. And of course, we are admitted there. We register, we do everything. Our bags are taken. And we are told this is where we are going to stay. We are allocated our beds. And one of the things that happened is that when we got there, we were separated. My older brother was now going to stay in another section, not with us. And then we could only meet as it happened later during lunch breaks and all of that. But in terms of full time, he was in another section. So I was with my younger brother. Morning comes. Then in the morning, my older brother comes to us and we get to realize that, in fact, we are not at a boarding school. We are at an orphanage. So for the first time, we get shocked that we are at an orphanage in somewhere in Free State in Tabanchu.
Sure.
So
not even close to where.
No, very far. I mean, it should be more than 700 kilo. I don't know, maybe 500-600 kilometers from home.
Yeah, it's quite a long.
We don't know the place. We don't know anyone. We've just realized. I think it dawned on us that basically we are being dumped there. This is not boarding school, and man, we were shattered. Shattered. It was over with us. It was a very bad thing, more so because also my older brother was separated from us. So it meant I must now take care of my younger brother. But the prevailing circumstances there in terms of the accommodation, the people who were taking care of us, the food, and generally the children that were there, where I am now, I can say that was the mostly badly run orphanage house, whether it was a government one or not, but it was bad. It was bad to a point that I think it is more like it had to be a survival of the fittest, Those people that were tasked with taking care of us were very abusive, first of all. So that is the mothers that were there, very abusive. One of the things that was not allowed there was for you to urinate your bed, So what would happen is while we go out and shower, so some of the boys would come take a bucket and basically pour it on your bed, and then they will come and inspect. When you come back, you are told that you have messed up. Man, you'll be beaten up, and we were victims. So we were victims of that. Not only that, but we had also bullies amongst ourselves as children there. To a point that even when you are given food, those bullies then would be kind of, take the food from you or deprive you of your food. And remember, I'm with my younger brother there. And I remember that it was bad. It was bad that I had to learn to take care of myself and to take care of him. And I had to learn to really protect myself and him. And that's where basically kind of your survival skills comes in. And really, I got to be a violent person as a child because of what I was experiencing there. Just to protect my plate of food, to protect my brother. So we stayed there for the whole year. I escaped from that place at least twice, and the police found me roaming in the streets of Tabanchu. And you had to back. Yes, we brought back, and you're going to be punished severely. I look back and thinking to myself, I could have gotten lost and maybe even hit by a car or die without anyone knowing where I was. But it was a very bad experience. We had people that even would visit us in the orphanage house, in that orphanage that we did not know. They would come and say they are visiting us, and we had agreed that we are not going to be seeing anyone unless it is our mother that is coming, because it became clear to us what our father had done, basically. Up to today, I don't even know who those people were that would come to visit us, bring us food, would always refuse to eat, would refuse to see them.
Because you had developed this sense of mistrust.
Yes.
Sure. Yes. And so what happened to your mom?
Yeah. My brother told us that not to trust anyone. So what happened is that my mother then gets discharged, right? And gets discharged only to be shocked to get home and not know where her children are. And she tells us that no one could tell her where we were because no one knew where we were. Remember, we left. By the time we left, it was late in the afternoon. We were picked up by a police van. It would appear that my father was not willing to divulge to her where we were, but somehow she got to know that we were somewhere in Tabanju where she did not even know where it was in South Africa. And she tells us that she had to travel almost 2 nights looking for us, up and down, and looking for her children. And you can imagine the desperation of a mother who's discharged from hospital to come and not find her children. And ultimately, she makes it to the orphanage house. And I am telling you, it was such a deliverance. We felt like we were delivered from Egypt, if I were to put it like that.
Because the power of a mother's love for her children.
Yeah. You know, she did not have money, she did not have anything. And she says, I went and I was asking everyone, where is this place? She got there and she got us out of that place. To say, my children are not orphans. You know, I'm here, I'm their mother. And they tried to give a run around, but my mother stood her ground and said, I'm not going anywhere. So we were taken out of that place, you know, after a year of being there. And remember, she just came out of hospital and she was not in a good relationship with my father. So we had nowhere to go. So my mother then had to take us to our grandmother in Wabaton. So that is how we got to be.
Yeah, that's how you got to Wabaton. Yes.
So that would be around 1990, 1991. All right. So when we got there around December, my grandfather had just passed because when we arrived, the family was still going through the grieving process. I think they had just buried him. We could have maybe arrived on a Monday and my grandfather was buried on a Saturday. So it was just quite easy when we got there. And we arrived in a place where we were speaking Sotho, and let me tell you, we could not even understand the language they were speaking there. You know, and people always refer to us as, you know, Labesuthu, because they were Swati speaking where I was. And then we had to start schooling there. You know, we had to start schooling there. My mother left us there, you know, just for Granny to take care of us. She went back to hustle, you know, back in Pretoria, and sent whatever little that she had. Again and again, she would come and check on us, bring us clothes, and all of that. But what is even more painful is the fact that we transitioned from a very, you know, bad experience of being in an orphanage and being abandoned by your own parent. And in as much as my grandmother did her, you know, her best in taking care of us, my grandmother also would go to Johannesburg to just, she used to sell clothes. So certain seasons she would go and leave us with the uncles. Let me tell you, it felt like transitioning from a bad place to a worse place, because my uncles were quite abusive. Very abusive. So we grew up being very abused, like extremely. I want to share 2 experiences that stand out for me. So when we got there, we got to be separated again. My younger brother then was taken somewhere else to stay with some of the aunties that were there. So I stayed there with my grandmother and the other uncles that were there. My older brother did not stay long with us. He basically ran away because of the situation. He ran away.
The situation was terrible.
Yeah, the situation was terrible. So he ran away basically and hustled his life. And unfortunately, that became the life that he lives even now, you know, and because of those experiences. But I stayed there. I stayed there, and I was subjected to serious abuse by my uncles. My uncles were people who were very addicted to alcohol. And in one instance, you just be abuse. You just be beaten up for no reason.
Nothing. My God.
In my life, I have been, at one time, I was abused by my uncle that my ribs were cracked on the right hand side. I could not breathe properly. So I had to have short, you know, breaths because I could not breathe properly.
Hey.
So what happened also, the other incident that stands out is that one of my uncles got paid. So it was on a Friday, he got paid, and it looks like he went out, got drunk, and at that time they would be paid cash. This thing of cards was not there. So it looks like he had all his cash, and somehow when he was out there, he lost his cash, or he drank all of it. The following day, he woke up and accused me of having stolen his cash.
Sure.
And do you know that fan belt of a car, right?
Yes. Sure.
So he basically put that fan belt and put a wooden stick and nailed the fan belt on the stick.
Yeah.
And he beat me with that. I mean, he beat me to a point that you could not recognize me. All over my head, my face. It was bad. I'm actually shocked that I got to survive that and not die because of it.
Unfortunately, we can't see even that now on your face.
Yeah, of course. You can't see that, But what was worse is that, a few days when I was getting better, police were called in, and I thought the police were coming for me. And you'd see later how it shaped me wanting to be a lawyer. So the police are called in, and I'm thinking that I'm relieved that the police are there to basically rescue me from this situation. But the police then buy this thing that I have actually stolen from my uncle. And I got to experience police brutality over and above the fact that I was abused by my uncle. They take me to a very far place in some woods, forest, and they beat me up until they decide among themselves, no, but this boy did not do this. He would have killed us. And they decide to bring me back and just drop me at home and then continue with their lives.
And they put you back into the same situation.
Into the same situation, yes. Into the same situation. And this happens when my grandmother is not there. This happens when my mother is not there. So when my mother comes back, so this was not only something that we got to know, even people, our neighbors got to experience what was happening and got to know what was happening. So when my mother comes, in as much as she was not yet ready to take us, she was forced to take us. Remember, this is now when I spent almost my primary schooling, because when my mother got us and I went to Mamelodi, I went there to do grade 8. So I started my high school in Mamelodi. So my mother then had to come and take us. All right. So that is how, again, she came through to say, you know what, I took my children from that bad situation in the orphanage. I bring them here. You guys abuse my children. I'm going to take them. I will see what I do with my children. I will hustle. And my mother got us back,
Yeah. We will come back. We will come back as we go along to this thing. But I thought it was important for us to really just paint the picture of the kind of guest that we have now, and he himself paints that picture so that we can see the depth from which you come when Mandla, and so that we can understand the resilience, the ability to transition, all of those things where they come from, because it's important, because some of the experiences that we have at an earlier time shape us in one way or the other as we go forward. Because I think we will come back to this issue, but I just want to transition quickly to your, we've heard about your background, we've heard about your situation, we've heard about your schooling. You have an interesting career trajectory, very interesting indeed. Very few people do that. And please understand that we will come back to this, to where you left the story. But right. I don't want you to miss any point. But if you feel that you want to refer, feel free to do that. But I just want us to move a little bit forward to say, you answered a call to be a pastor, all right? And you spent 10 years as a pastor. Tell us about that call. How did it happen? Was there a link to this thing that you were telling us about? And how did that whole thing come about of your call to ministry as a pastor?
So this is what happened. So I have already told you that I was traveling from Temba to Mamelodi, right? So what happened is that my mother would basically buy a monthly ticket. So it so happened that my older brother stole my school jacket that had my ticket inside, and you would see how this goes. So, and my mother now did not even have money to buy a ticket. And only to realize that my cousin was actually living in Mamelodi, and my mother arranged with my uncle that given that my ticket is now lost, I must go stay with my cousin in Mamelodi. So that is how then basically I moved to Mamelodi. So I stayed. I moved to Mamelodi to stay with my cousin. I then discovered that when we got there, we looked for a place. We could not find it. We only found a place at the mission house in Mamelodi Central Church. That is an Adventist church.
Oh,
and I'm saying that in as much as I was born Adventist, what happened is that during my primary schooling, I was not practicing Adventism because I was staying with my grandmother. My grandmother used to go to one of the Sunday churches because there were no Adventists even around that area. In any event, basically, we grew up with those Christian principles, you know.
Yeah.
So, and this is how then I get to reconnect back to Adventism. That transition. So when I got there, my cousin is a staunch Adventist. And that is Fiso Masina. You might know him. So we stayed at the mission house. So staying at the mission house, it meant basically that we are there. Whether it's prayer meetings, it's Sabbath worship, whatever is happening at church, it happens where we stay. You know. And that is where I got basically the whole thing of the calling happens in that around that. So that is around 1999. But what happened is that because of that, there was a local pastor that was placed there. I mean, best phenomenon pastor that we loved and that did well. So I got to be very close with him, Pastor Chauke. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got
to be very close to Pastor Chauke to a point that we would arrange that when he comes, I would wash his car. So as I was washing the car, he would be there with me, kind of, sharing with me his experiences. We would discuss the Bible. He was guiding me, and this happened when it was just the two of us. He would arrive there and find only me at the mission house and park his car there, and I would wash it and all of that. And I started to realize that actually I have a talent in terms of, participating and preaching. So I started preaching in the local church. Tuesdays, Fridays, they started slotting us. We started to preach,
Sorry, I thought you were going to say you have a talent in washing cars. Okay. No, go ahead.
So I got to be very involved in the youth, activities at church. Pathfinder, I did my master guide there, and got to really be active in church, activities. We got to preach, got to go to different homes doing prayer meetings. And that was around 1999 when I was still in grade 11 up to, I finished grade 12. So the whole of 2 years I spent in Mamelodi. And I think it was during that time that I got the impression that, you know what, in as much as at the back of my mind, I wanted to be a lawyer, I felt like, man, it looks like God is moving me to a detour. There's something else that needs to happen. You know, and that's why I got the sense that really God called me to the ministry. And I started to speak about it, to say, you know what, even what I was doing in the local church, the experiences that I have shared with Pastor Chauke and all of that, I really feel like God has called me to a ministry. It was a struggle. It was not easy because at that time it meant you must be sent to Helderberg. My mother was a domestic worker, could not send me there. So for the next 2 years, that is from the time I finished matric, that is 2000 to 2002, I am home. And
you're not studying?
I'm not studying. I got my exemption, yes, but I am not at varsity. I am not studying. And guess what I was doing most of the time? I was involved in crusades. you know. So moving from one campaign to another. So whenever there was a campaign, we got to work in those campaigns. And at that time, we got to work with Pastor Mapana. We would go to different places, you know, Jericho, Brett, wherever, and we become part of the campaign, help with the follow-ups, help with Bible studies, and even started to preach in some of those, campaigns. Until people who now believed that, you know what, this man really wants this man is really called into the ministry, then they started to assist. And specifically at that time, you know, Poison Keys really was very instrumental to and others, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, they got to be very instrumental. There was a lady at Temba Church who was, who had to go out of her way. She was a pensioner, Mrs. Time. And I remember telling her, I want to do this. She says, Mandla, if God has called you, you're going to do this. And she came one Sabbath having, 2,000 in an envelope. There was a lot of money there, you know, and that is all I needed to register Helpback was around 3.5 at that time. So I got that and went back to Kabazal. This is what I have. And that's it. There I was off to Helpback. That was 2003. So at Helpback, then I got to pay the tuition fee. That's all I had.
Because I think I saw you. I think I saw you for the first time when you were in Cape Town, when you were a student there. You'd come to Langa and all of that.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
So even at Helderberg, it was quite a struggle, hey? But
I'm sure
because we believed, man, I really believed in my calling. It is something that I still believe in. We stayed at a place there at Helderberg. Those that went there, when we talk about Damascus, they know what we're talking about. So Damascus used to be an area where, Helderberg would have a very nicely tarred road, right?
Yes.
But as you go deeper into Helderberg, into the merit quarters houses, then it's the tar stopped somewhere. It started to be dusty, road going down there. So that's how it got to be called Damascus, because of the dust going there. So in those merit quarters, you will have, it was more like a duplex. So they would stay on top. Underneath it will be a garage and a very small room where I would think it would be a basement or where tools can be kept. And most of us struggling students would request, from those students that were married to stay there. So my accommodation was basically there, down there at the basement. That's where I stayed, at least for 2 years, until I got sponsorship when I was doing my third year and fourth year. It was quite a very difficult time in the first 2 years. I didn't have money, to eat. I had to hustle. But whenever I had tried my best, I would go back to those people that believed in me and would support me, and they would always pay the fees, but I had to really put my best. And I realized that the position for me in Helderberg, they used to have what we call work bursaries to try to raise money towards your fees. And because I did not have food and all of that, I decided I would do a work bursary in the kitchen so that at least when I'm done, whatever that is left over, I can have some and eat. That's how I started my meal from day to day. And I would even bring some for those guys that stayed with me at Helderberg. So basically, those were the experiences at Helderberg. Of course, in my third year, fourth year, the conference got to sponsor me. Sponsored me. I went to live at the White House. That is the Salisbury house where the boys lived. So those that had money lived there. So I was upgraded to that lifestyle at the White House. I think life got better from there.
Okay, all right. That's a fascinating story there, how this whole thing came about. I see that we've been joined by other people. Thank you so much. Thank you. Usine uthi yo kaba umamele what you were saying, the difficulties. Ubongani la ngolomphefumulo uthi ungumandla nyani after having usandisiwe mamiya uthi yo so much abuse nakumfundisi ubongi njingolo uthi my learned colleague yabulisa apho Masabata Matabu Mahatu, good to see you. Maud August Makanda, good to see you, Doc. Great to see everyone. I also see that there's also Luando H on YouTube who has joined. People are joining, and there's there's so much interest in your story, man. We've now taken you from where you were born and traversed your life, oh man, twists and turns, up until now you are at Helderberg. And then you spent 10 years of your life in ministry. Just briefly tell us about that. Where were you? Because a friend of mine phoned me yesterday and said, oh, because when this guy left, I think it was in Soweto somewhere, the church, yes, the church was so, hurt, but also had a big farewell. He couldn't stop talking about how he loved you and how well you did. So tell us briefly about those years as a pastor for the Adventist Church.
Baba, look, my years as a pastor, 10 years as a pastor was the most fulfilling years. I don't regret the path that God took me, and the people that I got to serve, and the people that got to serve me as I was serving them. I realized that it was more like a mutual ministry. You come to places to serve, and you get to, given the background that I come from, you get people that now become your mothers, become your fathers, become sisters, brothers. It was a very warm experience that I got. So when I left Helderberg, I was deployed in Sidlama, Fagamshusha. That is, I didn't even know that place. I remember I had to Google it and check on the where am I going?
I've never heard of that place.
I got into a bus. I didn't even have a car then, So I started my ministry there in Mpumalanga, here in Mpumalanga. So I was placed there for around 4 years. I pastored there, and very brilliant, experience that I had as a young pastor, and I was quite very, very young, coming from Helderberg and fresh from school. I think it was the time when the breed of young pastors was starting to come in, When I arrived there, people did not, you were shocked actually. You are a pastor so young. When I joined the local, fraternity of pastors, the meetings, I was almost the youngest. When we would have funerals, and you'd find that maybe one of our members of the church had passed, and we had to go to a hall. It will be packed. People are always amazed that it is this boy that is preaching today. When you have the big pastors in there, big pura-puras, and all of that, it was quite intimidating. But at the same time, you had to rise up to the occasion.
Yeah.
And I did just that, and it was very fulfilling. I got to serve in Klerksdorp also for 1 year, and we had issues in the TOC. TOC is TOC. It is because of politics and all that. Yeah, there was a time we got into trouble with the TOC. I remember we even called the 5 Hebrew boys, myself, Tammy Danya Libuso, Tularim Kize, and Ronald Sikane. We even got dismissed. We got dismissed from work. Around 13 months, we were out of, ministry.
Out of employment. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
With back and forth, going to disciplinary hearings, going to SAU, appealing, and until, we were reinstated. I
remember that, yes.
So I then came back after that. Around 2013, I came back to Mpumalanga now. Still, but I was serving in a different area than where I was, because it's a district, so there are different zones. So I was placed in a different zone. And I specifically requested to be placed there because I was building a house for my family around Malelane. So I came back, served this place, served as also as a district director. And in 2017, that's when I then went to Soweto. I was serving some churches in Johannesburg, where I was staying in Roodepoort, and then I was serving those churches like your Orlando South. I do think that the person you're talking to was from Orlando South.
Yes.
Great experiences that I had in that church and many other churches. And look, I served my church in different capacities. In as much as I was a frontline pastor, I served my church in different executive committee. I sat in the TOC executive committee. I sat in the union executive committee. Even at the time when I resigned, I was a member of the General Conference executive committee, and I had gone there at least twice, as a pastor. So I think I made a lot of contribution into the ministry,
Yeah.
and the ministry also, kind of contributed to the person that I am. So, so the whole thing, therefore, of law has always been there, because in as much as these 10 years that of ministry, it also has 10 years of building up what is needed for me to transition to that.
Yes, both. I think that's very important, because I want to find out as to at what point did you think of now doing law? When did you start? And it's a nice way to segue into that discussion, because as much as you are working as a pastor, but you're also building yourself up for your next journey. But I just want to put a marker here for those people that are listening, really to listen carefully to what the trajectory of your life, and what you did with what you have, or what you had at the time, with the background that you did. But it sounds as if none of that prevented you from pursuing your dreams, and none of that stopped you from going where you wanted to go. And I think it's very important, because there are so many people today who are so discouraged with what is taking place. They blame their background, they blame this and they blame that, but they don't take any action to make whatever they think to materialize. So, and I think it's very important that we say that. Now, Sasetu Magaya, welcome back. I see you. Okay. Vito Fanti is watching. Oh, good to see you, Probam. I just don't want to miss this. Now, where did you start to consider law? You say law was at the back of your mind. When did you start your studies? I think you studied at UNISA, am I right?
Yes.
So tell us about that transition.
All right. So when I was moved, so I was deployed as a pastor. So the church policy was clear that in your first 2 years you cannot study. So between 2007 to 2009, I did not study. In the second part of 2009, that's when I registered for my LLB. All right. I remember when I started with taking only 3 modules. And then the following year, 2010, I then started to take the full load, because, I just wanted to finish this thing, in 4 years, at least 4.5 years at best. So that's when I, in as much as I was busy with my pastoral work, I also was studying with UNISA. So I did my degree between 2009 and 2013. All right. So I sponsored that myself. I remember I did even apply to the conference to be sponsored, but I realized that I'm taking chances, because it's gonna be said, how is it related to the work you are doing and all of that. But I realized that there are other people that were sponsored for business studies and all of that, But when I could not source that funding, I kind of like, no, I must do this.
Push it yourself.
Yes, I owe this to myself. So between 2009 and 2013, I did my LLB degree. The LLB degree at that time, it was composed of 40 modules, So I finished it. So 2013, I graduated. I went to UNISA in Pretoria, graduated. And then 2014, and at that time, I had not even thought of leaving. I was simply saying, I need to do whatever is needed. 2014.
What did you major in? What did you major in your law degree?
Look, the LLB degree, you don't necessarily specialize at that time. So it's just a general course where you do 40 modules with different procedural law, substantive law. So it's those modules. It is what you do after that can maybe you make determine what is it that you want to specialize. You want to be an advocate, you want to be an attorney. But I decided I want to be an attorney, because I don't want, it is just what I wanted. I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to still have that, touch, be on the ground and be able to get, clients and interact with people. So 2014, I did law school. Law school is a part of a requirement towards admission as an attorney in South Africa. So law school introduces you to practical, training. So you get to know how law in its theory, gets to be made practical. in terms of how you draft documents, in terms of how you appear in court, how you address the presiding officers in the different courts and tribunals. So I did law school in the whole of 2014, right? So there was one that I did with the Law Society in conjunction with UNISA. So it took the whole year to still write exams at the end. So I did that and passed that part, right?
Okay.
And then 2015, there is what we call admission exams. In others, they refer to them as by exams, but it's admission exams, attorneys admission exams. In 2015, I dedicated my year to say I need to pass the board exams or the admission exams. I remember I went in for the first time around February. It's 4 of them. So I went in, wrote all of them. I succeeded in 1, and I had orals in 2, and then this kind of failed 1. I'm like, no ways. I went to do the orals. The orals did not go well. August, I went back. I wrote and passed the other 3, right?
Okay.
Then I was basically done with 3 requirements: LLB, law school, admission exams. The last one that I had to do was to do articles. So that is more like practical training where you are placed in a law firm. A principal is appointed and guides you through the process. That process, it gets to be registered with the Law Society, which is now called the Legal, Council. So that's basically what I did in 2016, and I did all of those things while I was employed as a pastor.
Yes.
So in 2016, then I completed all of that. What then was left was that after you've done fulfilled all of those requirements, you still had to bring an application to the High Court to be admitted as an attorney, which means the court had to satisfy itself that you had really fulfilled all of those requirements, and specifically also had the necessary experience. I must tell you that towards admission, it was a very difficult journey. At that time already, I was in Johannesburg. And what happened is that I got to discover around that time that I did my articles in 2016, and in so doing those articles in 2016, I was still employed as a pastor. And the act that regulated attorneys at that time, which was the Attorneys Act, did not allow a person who's a candidate attorney to be employed by any other organization or to be holding any position. Remember, I was holding a position as a pastor, and I was working also. But at the same time, I had made arrangements with the conference to say, guys, this is what I'm doing. So I did get consent from my conference to say, I can do my pastoral work from this time to this time. I got, an arrangement with my principal to say, I need to leave early. I would work until maybe 2, 3. I need to leave early, or 4. I need to leave early because I also have to fulfill my pastoral duties. But still, I had not secured the consent of the Law Society at that time. It was a very hard thing, because what it meant is that the whole period of articles can be set aside. I went through very serious stress. I met a very amazing man then, Advocate Kuala, through Pastor Daniel, who's a friend of mine. And we sat down, and he said, look, Mandla, you can, let's work through this. Or you can even become an advocate. Those requirements are not needed. You just become an advocate, or go to court, disclose everything, and let the court decide. I remember I went back. There was a time where I prayed that, you know what, God, if this is meant for me, and if really you want me to live, because you knew all along that this is where my passion is, right? If you bring this application to the High Court, and we would normally say we call it condonation. In a condonation, you explain why you could not comply with certain rules, with certain laws. So, Advocate Kuala then had to prepare that application for me. We spent days and weeks in his chambers assisting me through the process. And it was a very hard one. And I prayed that if this admission fails, I'm not leaving the ministry. That was my point. That's it. My prayer, my first thing at that time was that if we do all that we are doing, we tell the court, this is who I am. This is what I did. If it fails, I'm not leaving the ministry. It means you don't want me to. I am staying. That's it. So we went and he prepared the application. We sent it to the to the Law Society then. It was called the Law Society. It's them that have basically the right to kind of oppose the application. So they could oppose the application and say, no, this candidate must not be admitted because they did not comply with 1, 2, 3. But having read our papers, they decided they're not going to oppose it. We're happy with that. And we said, at least we are one step now. Another step is for the court to approve of it. Let me tell you, I have never been subjected to a stressful, kind of condition, at least in my studies or in my qualification, done at that time. I remember I lost a lot of weight because it was critical to me. I look at the pictures now when I was admitted. I'm telling you, the only thing that had not lost weight was my head. But the rest of the body was I'm telling you. So we went to court 12 May 2017. That was the date when we went to court. And man, I was scared. I was very scared. It was tense.
It was a decision time now.
It was decision time now. And this is where it mattered the most. It doesn't matter what you do. As long as the court does not admit you as an attorney, you are not an attorney. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
So qualifications are still have to be stamped by that.
They still have to be stamped. It doesn't matter. You did an LLB or all of it. Doesn't matter. Law school, yes, you passed. It does not matter. The court must admit you as an attorney. And I remember that day sitting there. My friends were there. My family, was there, and the advocate was there. And let me tell you where I knew that. You know what? No, this thing I am leaving. God was just ahead of me and had prepared everything. With so much that we had prepared, so many cases we had prepared, arguments that my counsel was going to move for me, he did not have to do any of that. So this is what happens in court. So the judges come in, the application is heard by two judges, right?
Yeah.
If one of the judges doesn't agree, you are not going through. Okay. So both of them would apply their mind independently as to whether you must be admitted as an attorney.
Yeah.
So they get in. They sit there at the bench. I remember the first 2 cases that went before me, they were not impressed with the application. Those applications were dismissed. And I felt like, man, the judges are even in a bad mood today. 2 people already were not admitted. And I'm coming with problems of pastor and all of those things. I had to explain a lot of things in my paper, what I did as a pastor, how many hours I spent in the work, how many hours I spent so I had to do a lot of disclosure in my paper.
And in fact, your paper had to speak for you before you even say anything.
Yes. Remember, they have read everything. By the time they come in, they have made their decision. Man, it's a day I don't forget. It's a day I always celebrate. The judges come in, and they call, the matter is called. So they will call your name. They will call the case number. And the judges, it was 2 judges, so they look at each other and smile, and then the judge starts to speak. We have read this application with my sister, so that is how judges would refer to each other, or brother, depending on the gender. So she says, look, we have read the application of Mr. Matshiyane with my sister, and as you see us smiling with each other, in fact, as we're speaking at the back, we were quite impressed with the level of honesty. The level of honesty displayed in these papers. Facts were brought to us that we could not have known. This applicant would simply bring this application without disclosing all of those things. And we really commend him for what he has done. As a result, we don't have any objection in him being admitted.
Wow.
And be admitted. All that my counsel had to do was that, my ladyship, I am appearing on behalf of the applicant, which is me. That is the only thing he said in court. With all of those cases, we had prepared weeks and weeks we spent in legal research. I'm telling you, I felt that just God handed it to me just like that. I did not need to do anything. and that's it. And from there, I remember I had to, around October, I still had one more meeting to attend at Washington, DC, for the executive committee. And I was going to resign around May. I said, no, I don't want to resign now. I must go. I must attend the last executive committee meeting, at least before I leave.
Yeah.
And that's it. I went and attended it, and I came back. And when I came back, I basically called the administrators, the officers of the conference, informed them, look, I'm going to, in a week's time or so, I'm going to bring a letter to resign. But I'm calling you so that there's no cloud around my resignation, or it's not viewed as a political, reason. I even made it clear to them that I'm going to resign, but I want to tell you that I am available to still assist the conference without being an employee, because my issue is that I wanted to do what I'm doing now, but the policies of the church were such that you are a full-time paid minister of the gospel. You cannot do any other work. And the policies were accommodating me to do what I wanted to do. And this is what I normally tell people, that when I left, it was not pastoring that I left. When I left employment.
Okay. Wow. That's very interesting.
So I was not leaving pastor. I was not leaving my calling as a pastor. I was leaving employment.
Employment,
I was leaving employment.
You were going to be a pastor in a different terrain.
Yes. And I made it clear even to them to say, I would appreciate it if you can allocate one church for me. You don't have to get it. You don't even have to pay me for it. So that I can still further my ministry. I was ordained. I'm a marriage officer. By the time I left, I can say I was a senior pastor in terms of the years I've spent in the ministry.
Yes, that's a long time you've been there.
It's a long time, yeah. But, with this conference politics and all of that, it never happened. I was never allocated any church. I just resigned and it was all over. That's it. But I got to basically, at least as and when people need my services, then I would be available then.
But at least in the hearts of people, you still remain their pastor. And also in your mind as well, you carry yourself in that way. And I think that's powerful. A point to just pause and just to say, from the description of all this life, and I can actually sense a book there, but from the description of all of these things, I can sense that there have been people that were part of your support structure, people that came in, to support you in your studies. The 2000 lady, Kize, this advocate Gwala, and many other people that you do not have the time to mention here. But just tell us about the role of that kind of support that is important, that we still have to carry on doing today.
Look, Baba, I lost my mother. I lost my mother, and I'm saying this so that I can connect to people that also kind of carried me and became more like parents, and up to today they have fulfilled that role, and it is because of them also that I have pushed and never gave. So I lose my mother while in Helderberg, and it was the most painful thing that I ever had to experience, where I had to fly from Helderberg to come bury my mother, being a student doing the third year. At that time I got to really, in as much as I went through a very tough experience, but there are people who, as if God had positioned them, that were very close to my mother, that really took care of my mother. There was Mam Kize in Temba, and there was Mam Sitole. These are people that were really taking care of my mother, and as a result, they took care of us. And then came the Mbingas. The Mbingas are like my parents now. Since that time, that was around 2005. They took care of my mother when she was ill. They did even more than that. When she was no longer there, they took us in. They took us in. When I talk about going home, I talk about going to them. you know.
Mm.
And this is over and above a lot of people that played the motherly role in the ministry, understanding where I'm coming from, because now I'm coming in the ministry without both parents, and my father also passed in 2015. In as much as there was no relationship between me and my father, but a year or two before his passing, basically we had to make up things. You know, we sat down, went through what happened, went through the whole thing of childhood, and forgave him, and kind of moved on. That's it. Took care of him, and then 2015, then he passed on. You know. So those people were there, you know, to assist. At school, you had people like your advocate, Mfundisi Gwala, that really played a support, a very serious one. I remember when my mother was ill and I had to come home to see her. And I knew then that when I'm seeing her now, it was clear that I'm not going to see her again alive, because I found her in a very bad situation. She had lost weight to a point that I could not even recognize her, you know, because of the illness that she had. And I remember that Umfundisi Gwala came all the way just to support me during that process. His part was student services at that time. They bought tickets for me to fly home.
Who's that?
Pastor Papu, Dr. Papu.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, they played quite a role. The Jagavulas, there's a lot of people that really gave in, you know, and that supported me. So there's never a point where I felt like I'm just gonna give up. I don't have parents. You know, I went through this in my childhood. I struggled there and there. I realized that in as much as my mother is not there, and I wish that she was, or I could make her proud, she could see all of this. But I felt like I still owe it to her to make it in this life, you know. And not only that, you got to be married, then you are raising children, and you have to be sure that your children are not subjected to what you are subjected to as a child. And that informs the kind of father that I am today. That informs the kind of person that I am in terms of my attitude towards abuse of women and children. If there's one thing that I prioritize more than anything in my life is my children. That's it. You know, because I don't want them to even experience 1% of what I experience. I am shaping a childhood, and I want them, when they're adults, to look back and be able to say, you know what, our childhood was something that was blissful. It's something that I did not have. I wish I had. So now I have an opportunity to become, you know, a father that I never had. You know,
yes.
children.
And our country needs that today, with all the violence that's taking place. You know, guys, you know, chopping up a woman's body. I mean, we need more exemplary fathers and men out there who are really doing what you are doing, not just for our immediate families, but for others as well. I now want us to transition now to the establishment of your firm now, because we've come a long way. We know you have resigned. You went to Washington. You came back and you announced this, but I do want because I do want to talk about your decision to establish your own firm rather than go and work for another firm. But before I do that, I think Usandisiwe Mamia is responding to what I was saying. Background, Uti Apa, true prophet. Background doesn't define your destiny. No Sizwe Mgudra, Uti, what a powerful story. There's so much to it. It would be a great book. Uvile. So when you publish your book, please remember me. Usisinzanza, Sondas, Sisinzani, good to see you. Nanku Ufezeka, Sikelelwa Mklamo, good to see you, Sisi. Nwabisa Didishe, and Musani, these people are watching from all over the country, you know, really enraptured by the unfolding of a marvelous story right in front of our eyes. And I think, Mfundisi, we are now ready to now understand, you know, just your mindset about establishing your own firm, Matshiyane Attorneys. I understand that you did that after that 2017, around 2018. Tell us about that, and what factors did you consider, and what did you do practically establish it?
All right. So I established Matshiyane Attorneys on the around August 2017, and we basically started to work around the 1st of September 2017. And I think being a candidate attorney gave me the kind of training that I think for me was sufficient. I remember there are people who were opposed to the idea of opening a law firm immediately after being admitted as an attorney. Because of the limited experience that you have, and advocated that you need to spend at least a few years, let's say 3-5 years in a corporate, place or environment, or being employed by a law firm. Take that experience with you. But I felt like, no, man, I don't need that. I think the training that I have, I mean, I have an LLB. I have gone through all of this training to be able to stand alone as an attorney. But also what informed my decision that I will not work for another law firm is the fact that I'm coming from a pastoral background. And I was very sensitive to that, to an extent that I did not want to find myself being subjected to certain things that go against my conscience, my belief, and my religion, my faith. So if I'm going to be an employee somewhere else, it could be that a conflict again will arise. I may be expected to work on a Sabbath because of the nature of work and urgent matters that we do. I needed an environment where I'm in control of the space I'm in. And
I see, and I keep track on some of your posts. I can see on Friday afternoons that you post.
I just shut down.
Because you're already shifting your mind towards the Sabbath and resting and that. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
I just shut down. Yeah. So what I did then, basically, I then got to find out, I got information from the Law Society, as we would refer to it then, what is needed to open a practice. I realized that I can fulfill these requirements. CIPC, required if I want to open an incorporated. That's it. I got an accountant who registered the firm for me with CIPC. I informed the Legal Practice Council that I wish to open a law firm. And these are my details. You have to supply your admission, papers, and all of that. And then it was approved. That's it. I opened a law firm, no client, no one. All that people knew, at least where I was, that they knew a pastor, they did not know a lawyer. So I opened offices and had to use the little pension I got from my pastoral ministry, to buy desks, buy chairs. I had a very small office, and that's it. I set up my office, and it started just like that.
How did you deal with marketing yourself to show the people that you are there and these are the services that you provide?
Yeah. So what I then did is that, at least insofar as the services that I provided, I realized that, man, before I could start to market myself everywhere else, I think where I stay, people need to know that this is what I'm doing, because they know me already. Not only people from my church, because as a pastor, you get to be involved in the community. I've sat in some, committees in the NGO, around locally. I was doing devotions almost every day at the local police station, so I was quite known around the area. Whenever there were community things, I was there. So I would basically then start there. I'd flyers, prepared them, went to the people that at least knew me to say, guys, this is where I am now. Support me when you can. But I also placed a number of adverts on the local newspaper, to say this is where I am. And I did an article also on my story briefly. I think I sent you that article.
Yes, that's a fascinating story. Yes. And I marveled being supportive of community media myself. I marveled at the fact that you placed it and you used the local newspaper to actually carry your story, because that's where people are.
Yes, definitely. So that's how I marketed my services. I put up a website. I went to CEDA. CEDA assisted me with a business plan. So I went through all of that. They allocated a specialist who came and assisted me. We sat down, did the whole plan, the business plan. And that's it. I got to start. The first clients I got were members of the church. I remember those are the first two clients that I got. And I can tell you, on the 1st of September this year, it will be 4 years since I've been in the practice.
Time flies, eh?
Time flies. And I am telling you, it's been business is business. It has its up and downs, but what I'm doing now, it's the most fulfilling. And I don't regret it. And I can say it's done well, and it keeps on improving. There are hard days, but there are days when it really gives so much satisfaction. And I'm grateful. There's lots of matters that I got to do. There's a whole lot of files. I just moved offices. I realized the number of files that I've closed. It's quite a lot, and I think God has been good. In terms of really growing my practice and really where I am, especially in our fraternity, in the first few years, at least from first year to 3 years, it's a kind of struggle because you are not known. Also, you don't have the necessary experience. When people want, or especially corporations, they talk about they want a legal representative in their panels. They are talking about people that have been practicing at least from 3 years to 5 years. That would be a starting point, and I'm grateful that I have practiced since then up to now. I remember a friend of mine, Dagan, saying to me, "You know what, bro? What you have done, even if you had to close your law firm, I'm proud of you. You would have achieved it. That's it."
Wow.
And these are such people that keep encouraging me, to say it was not an easy decision. And I need to go back. I'm saying it was not an easy. Fear crept in.
Yes. I want to talk about that.
What if this thing fails? What if this thing fails? And I have subjected my children to this change that I'm bringing, my whole family. What if I've become a laughing stock? There are a lot of days I spent doubting my own decision and whether I should resign or not. Because honestly speaking, having worked for the church for 10 years, the church was really taking care of us financially. Because of this other, you have medical aid, you have children, you have education allowance. Really think that at that time, really the church was doing its best. So to leave all of that, to
live a secure kind of employment environment and struck out on your own.
Man, it's a very difficult one. You leave everything, no contribution towards medical aid, your children, nothing, and really fear kicks in so many levels, but I had to really, push out and say, no, you know what, I'm not going to allow fear to limit me because I know where I'm coming from. I know what I want to achieve. I'm just going to do this. If it works, it works. If it does not work, I will still make a plan for something else. At least now I have the qualification. I have the qualification. I have the years of experience, even where I'm coming from. If it does not work, no problem. I'll go back to the drawing board and do it. And here I am, all 4 years. I've not looked back, and I'm really grateful of that experience.
It's a powerful story, Mhlobam. It's a motivating story for many people who may be in corporate companies out there who want to step out, who may be in organizations like churches or other things, who feel their dream of stepping out, but they are sort of paralyzed by fear. And I think you're telling us now that there's a point at which you've got to make a final decision and you need to take the leap of faith. Now, I want to find out from you, what services do you provide for the people who may want to maybe partner with you? I'm also interested to realize that you've located your office next to the new law is it a magistrate of, is it a high court there in
yes, it's a high court. It's a high court, yeah.
So that you can tap into the business.
No, definitely, definitely. Remember, for some time we did not have the High Court here in Mpumalanga, so
Yes.
we had to travel to Pretoria for High Court
Yes.
matters.
And it's beautiful, and it's beautiful. I must say, I've seen it.
It is.
Mukweng must be congratulated for that.
Yes, yes. So I did. So basically, then we would do most of our matters at the magistrate court. You know, magistrate court has a district court and a regional court. So we did most of our work there. So now, because of the High Court, and also I think with having make the 3 years, you know, experience, now it makes it easier even for me to be able to do those High Court matters. And as of last year, I decided that I want to litigate in the High Court, and that's what I have done, and I continue to do, because if in this industry, you get to know that there is never a point where you stop learning. So you're not going to limit yourself in terms of, I'm not exposed to these matters, I'm not going to do them. If I don't know anything, you go out there, buy the book that deals with the relevant aspect of law, know what is involved, read cases, understand the case law, understand the legislation, then you are able to take the case forward. So what I do then, I offer, my services offer family law. Family law has a lot of branches, so it deals with all of those issues like your custody issues, divorce issues, maintenance issues. I deal with labor law. I always had passion for labor law, and hence I've done that postgrad certificate.
I saw that.
So I do a lot of labor law. And I do general, you know, litigation both in the magistrate court and in the High Court, where I appear myself. I also appear in the labor court. I do representations at CCMAs for employees. Most of my clients up to so far, with exception maybe of two, organizations that I represent, most of my clients really are people that I can identify with their background, where I'm coming from. So I'm more of individual clients, you know. And it's amazing that not having corporate clients that may come with a lot of money, yet those individual clients that I have carried my practice to this far, and I've made, you know, so much success of my business from there. So so those are the services that I offer. And of course, assist also in a lot of, you know, legal opinions, administration of deceased estate, you know, drafting wills and assisting people to wind up their estate, and winding up of companies. So those are services that I offer.
Last week I had experts talking on the wills and all of that, and I'm sure. When people want to make it happen, they come to people like you then to actually do the drafting, do the winding down. And I think that's very, very important. Let me just go back just to read what people are saying here. I see that Francis Kuster has joined us. Toto Tola has been around. Kaba, good to see you. This man inspires me to no end. Very proud of him. Sisinzani is coming back to say, powerful story indeed. Jambase Mandla is Lloyd Jambase is saying, when you see Jambase Lloyd, Uti Mandla is an inspiration. As I'm listening, I'm motivated. It is indeed possible for a black child. You see, that is the goal of this platform that we have here, to create that sense in someone there who may feel that there is no hope for them. And for me, we have achieved our purpose for today by just listening to those messages that are coming through. Andrew Modise, my elder, is here also watching. Utusine back, for a person who is in his first year at UNISA doing LLB, this discussion is very inspirational and motivating to me. Uti ize kumle prapet. This guy asked that you're doing your LLB. Welcome and all the best to you. You now see how the future can be bright if you expose yourself to people like our guest today. Let me just check if Umlandeli Nhlantsana uthi Etabra Pet upete iboza apho, and very humble pastor. The babes, thank you, sir. Thank you, babes. Good to see you, man. Uchi, all the best in your future endeavors, my pastor. He's on our YouTube channel. We have very few minutes left, my brother, but I think you really have showed us some sort of a trail of a life well lived, and you are now where you are building. The one thing that I really marvel at is that you don't seem to be greedy to have a quick cash kind of thing, cut corners. You are building a proper foundation, step by step. Why is that important for you?
Baba, one of the things that's very important in the legal profession and generally as a person is to become ethical. My integrity is very important, and hence I've decided to do things myself to ensure that I'm in control, I'm in charge, and I make sure that I build up something that is not built on sandy ground. It's built on solid ground. So it's very important in this work that we do that you become, in our language you'd say you must be a fit and proper person, and you must be an ethical person, a very honest person, and a person that is able to take your clients serious, that entrust you with their matters, that entrust you with their monies, because as an attorney you get to deal with a whole lot of issues that are very close to people. And I think for me what has made it easy is that I come from a pastoral background. So when I listen to a person, the service that I offer is not simply detached from looking at really how this has impacted the person. And I think that is where, and I see that it's giving me some kind of added advantage in how I deal with my clients and how I advise them, in the decisions that they make and the advice that they seek. And that, in my view, has also contributed to the success of my business to the way it is. Mainly, my business has grown because of the clients that I have serviced before. Those that have come through my door and required that I assisted them, it is the same people that would recommend others to say, this is the person that can assist you. And I can tell you, the nature of our industry is such that most of the work that we do is referral work as opposed to simply advertisement, in the newspapers everywhere. But the quality of service that you give your clients, because your client also is a person that has influence to many other people. So whenever a client refers one person to you, you must know that you've done a good job, and that person is going to refer others. And this is how the practice has built up for all of those years, because you value people, and you really give people such a holistic service, even above simply appearing in court and drafting papers for them. But you show them that you really care about their well-being. And for me, it has continued this pastoral touch that I have towards my practice.
And you use the word the service, and I had a program here where I brought in some business people, to come and talk about service excellence. And just briefly, how do you get your team? Because you're the head, and you probably the face of the team, but you have people behind you. How do you sort of create the culture of excellence, such that this thing is not just about you, but it's a culture of the organization? How do you deal with that with your team?
Yeah, look, the best that you do is to really lead by example. They get to see how you do things. Where I am, for instance, after you have your 3 years, you can now become a principal, which means now you can have candidate attorneys under you, which means now you have a duty and obligation to train someone to become what you are. And the best thing to do it within your own organization is to lead by that example, so that they see what you do, but you don't stop there, but you take them through the process to say, guys, when we fail to do this, this is what it results in. You may not, you may see it as if it's an isolated thing, how maybe you speak to a client and how you welcome a client, but it's not. It goes a long way. So it's example, it's more and more kind of demonstrating and training them and ensuring that even when you are not here, you know, those that there still represent what you stand for, because as you say, you don't do all the work yourself. Sometimes you are not, I'm not in the office, I'm in court. People get to come to my office in my absence. They must be able to experience what they would have experienced even if I was not there. So I make sure that I take along those that work with me and assist me to say, this is the culture. The fact that I work hard, I want you to work hard. This is how I want things to be done. And you monitor until they understand that, no, this is the culture of this organization. This is how we do things. And I think that has quite assisted me to where I am today.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question as a coach, because I'm a coach. How do you look after yourself personally? How do you look after your own health? After yourself, I mean, you must be busy. You must be doing all sorts of things. Do you spend time thinking about that?
It's true, Baba. Look, it's something that I value the most, to take care of myself, because this work can consume you. Can consume you, spending a lot of hours drafting papers, reading judgments, preparing for court, and it can have serious, have health, it could be detrimental to your health. So I'm very conscious about my health. I don't think my work is more important than my health, because I also have children that I'm raising. So the fact that I'm running my own practice, I get to see what is it that I can take. I don't want to take more than I should take. I know most of we start businesses to be profitable, but at the same time, it should not be done at the detriment of your own health. So for me, money is not everything. Spending sleepless nights is not everything. So I make sure that I really kind of have limits to what I do to ensure that I take care of myself. That's why Fridays, basically, I drop down. That's it. I don't do anything. I don't take clients on Fridays afternoon. I don't take clients on Saturdays. I don't do work on Sundays, because I'm trying to, I need to concentrate, on myself. I exercise a lot, which is something that I do on a daily basis. I try to basically, as best as I can, stick to foods that will really not sabotage my health, because I need this body to be able to make it. So if I don't take off myself, I'm also killing my own practice.
It's a trade of. It's a tool of trade.
It is. So it starts here, then we move forward. So I'm quite conscious about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mkrobamdia Bulela. Let me just conclude by looking at what people are saying here. I can see that Mbeko Klonta is here. Baba Ngolombane. Mem Pap Uti. Mem Ntandazo Pap Uti. Powerful Pupet Sibulela. Shepherdess, thumbs up for her great work. Referring to your wife there, yes. Because it's important that we have balanced life. We have to have family life. We've got to have time with children and all of that, and to see it, being, lived out in, and especially as Adventists, we've got what we call a health message, which is about looking after our minds and our bodies. To be of service to people for longer. And it's good to hear that you subscribe to that as well. Now, Temkos Machigela has a program which is called Black Excellence. And I think today, along with other programs, you have been the epitome of that Black Excellence. And I want to honor you and thank you, Mandla, for giving us your time. It's a long time. We spent an hour and a half talking here, and you and I during the week we've been preparing for this, and I really want to thank you for spending this time just to come and motivate and inspire other people. I am inspired, as we have read here, people are inspired. But maybe you want to say last few words as we conclude, but also tell us whether you operate just in Mpumalanga, given now we're now in an online world. Do you provide services anywhere in the world, and how can people get hold of you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bob. Look, before I'm saying my last, look, the nature of legal services is such that they are not limited to where the office is based.
Yeah.
I offer my services nationwide. I mean, even the clientele that I have is not concentrated in one area. I have assisted my clients as far as Free State, in Kuruman, Johannesburg. I have clients everywhere, and as you say, we've moved to a virtual space now, to a point that even in High Court we don't go physically there. I'm able to appear in court being in my office, but we've also introduced that thing that says we can even have virtual consultation with our clients, and then and we consult, and they send the documents that are needed, and then we assist them and we give them updates on a weekly basis as to where their matter is and what is really happening. So our services really are everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. We are able to render our services, and we've done that excellently throughout the years. So that people may know that it doesn't mean that because we are here, you cannot make use of our services. Of course, in some instances, you have clients that prefer to see you in person, and we make that happen. We travel to meet with our clients, consult with them, have face-to-face consultation, understand their issues, get the documents from them, because most of the work really is done in the office. We do the consultation, come back with all the information, take the facts and see how the law applies to those facts. We draft papers to the High Court. The exchange of papers happen between the lawyers on both sides until such a time the case is ready to go to court. That is when now we need to consult again with the client to say, we are ready to go to court. And depending whether the matter is the one that requires the evidence of our client, we consult with our client preparing for court, and they are able also, to even give evidence virtually if it means they must testify. But some of the cases are those cases that are decided on papers. We prepare affidavits for our clients that are submitted, and then the court is able to decide the case based on the affidavits and the legal arguments that are made by those lawyers. So we offer our services everywhere. We have a website, www.matshianeattorneys.co.za. It has all our details. We are there on Facebook and Matshiyane Attorneys, and we are there on Twitter also. So basically, people can be rest assured that we are everywhere. We are everywhere. You can contact us, and we'll be able to assist them. Yeah.
Okay.
But coming to what you've said, Baba, I think given what I've shared with you, I have the most perfect background to give an excuse why I should not achieve.
Wow. Wow. I think that's a tweetable moment right there. Those of you who are tweeting, I think you're saying you have the most perfect excuse.
Yes. Yes. I have a perfect excuse why I could not be where I am today. I look at what I've been subjected to, which becomes part of me, and I bear those scars. But it is those scars that have made me to move forward, because I don't want to become like the people that were there and did those things that they did in my life. I seek to be a better person. So whatever that has happened has, instead of pushing me to a dark place, instead it has pushed me to a place where I need to be better and do better and be able to be exemplary to my children and those that basically are observing my life. So we all have those bad experiences in life, and I think we should not use them as a way of keeping us down, but let us use them to fuel us forward, to make the impact, to be what we would love to see. And like I said earlier on, I am to my children the father that I never had, that I wished could do 1, 2, 3. But now I have an opportunity to do something about it, and then take that opportunity. So do not allow what you go through, whether it be how you were raised, whether it is going through a difficult moment in your career or in your life, to really keep you stationary to a point that you are not able to live out what God has put in you. But use that as a reason why you need to even excel. And I think when you do that, you realize that you're not going to sleep on yourself. You have to wake up, you have to keep on working on yourself. It's a lifetime commitment that you must put in and leave such a bright legacy that those that have looked at your life and that were close to you are able to say, here is a man that had all the excuse. Nevertheless, he pursued what he wanted and he was able to achieve it. Otherwise, if we really had to sleep on ourselves based on our backgrounds, most of us would not be where we are today.
Wow, what a way to end this conversation. What a powerful way of speaking, using words there to really drive home the point that there's nothing that's impossible with God on your side, with determination, with intentionality, and really, I couldn't ask for a better way of concluding this conversation. I see that Ayanda Yasmin Maisela has joined us. Mzwoko Lotwana is also here. There are so many people that are here. I want to thank you so much to all of those people that are here, including Piwi Nkosi. Thank you for your story, Mandla. Is Piwi Ucho up. And so I want to thank you, Mandla, and thank you everyone who has joined us. And by the way, I'd like you to please, before you log off today, Mandla and everybody, please go to Kulati Coaching and Consulting and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get these reminders and we store all of this information there for people to go and be inspired. This is a moment of insight and growth, and basically that's what we do. So thank you so much, Mklobam. I really appreciate it, and please go and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. To all those of you who are watching, all the best until next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Baba. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, thanks, man. Take care. Sure. Okay. For those of you I may have missed reading your message, please forgive me. But I see you, Sne Uti. May God extend your territory, Mr. Matshiyane, and you prepare. Thank you. We welcome and receive that, as they say. Thank you so much for those messages there. And if I happen to miss your message, please forgive me. I tried my best to keep track of what's happening. Thank you again, all of you, for joining and spending this time with us. May your soccer team win, whoever you are. Thank you. As long as it's not playing against Kaizer Chiefs. Thank you so much. All the best.